All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another exciting edition of the Parental Playbook Podcast. I'm joined by a very special guest, a good friend of the family, a great coach and mentor, and just a super duper human being with an amazing family. So you'll want to listen to my guy, Dave LaPresti. He's been guiding athletic careers in the hockey world for, wow, going on what, 20 years now? 20?
Close to it. I mean, again, I don't want to admit it, but yeah,
It's been a career already. He's got two
no,
decades of coaching experience. He was also a professional hockey player in Europe and here in the US in the ECHL, and also played for the Boston University Terriers, one of the premier programs in all of college hockey. So Dave LaPresti, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
thank you,
What a
thank you.
pleasure to
It's
have you
great to
here.
see you. Great to see
Yeah,
you.
great
It's
to
been
see
way
you.
too long since we've been together, so this is as
Yes,
close as we'll
indeed.
get for now.
Yeah, we got to make this a regular
Yeah.
occurrence, man, to have you on.
Yes, sir.
I figured I'd wear my University of Maine hat just to
Yeah,
let you know who's on top these days.
yeah, yeah. It's after last night's overtime win. We have to support the boys in scarlet and white.
There
And
you go.
a little bit of a skid, but they broke that last night with a good OT win in the Beanpot. So onward and upward from
Nice,
here to the rest of the season, hopefully.
nice. The bean
So,
pot is
yeah,
huge, man. The season is wow, blowing by.
yeah.
Wow, we're already at bean pot time. Okay.
Already, first night was last night.
Wow. Man. Well, let's get into it, Dave. We focus on communication between parents and student athletes here at the Parental Playbook. It's our signature course. And tell me a little bit about your experience and how your parents were able to help you through playing at a pressure cooker, even back then when you played at BU. I mean, there's a lot of pressure to perform. You guys were expected to win a national championship every year because that's the prestige of the program. So tell me how your parents were able to guide you through those tough days.
So my parents' approach is a lot different than what I see from kids and families today that I deal with and speak with. Where my father played college hockey at Harvard. I mean, that was 1969, 70, right? So I mean, that is a
Mhm.
completely different world. My
Yeah.
mother, did not play collegiate sports or anything of that level, so she was new to all this, and they really were just supportive of me. They wanted me to make my own decisions. We sat down and we talked about options and what weighed best, but they weren't helicopter parents. They weren't pressuring me to do this. They were as even keel as you could be. And they allowed me to make my own decisions. When I went to prep school, that was my decision. I got into a few different schools. Whichever one I went to was my choice. When I'm getting recruited to college, it was my choice which one I went to. So they never really sat, and for better or worse, they allowed me to make my own decisions. Yes, they would give me their advice and their tips and their thoughts, but at the end of the day, it was always on me what I wanted to do. And I don't know if that came from them just kind of saying, this is your life, you do what you want to do, or if it was not really knowing the process back then, because they weren't in the sports world. So,
Right.
so they didn't really know. And, going back then, we didn't have advisors and all that stuff too much.
Mm,
So it kind of really was, well, what do you think? You want to do that? Okay, here's the good, here's the bad. Great, let's go. That's really what it was. And so they were very supportive. Everything I did was 100% my choice and had their backing.
yeah.
So I never really felt the pressure. I never felt pressure from them.
Nice.
So that was good. It was never me trying to live up to standards or meet their expectations. It just was, hey, this opportunity's here. What do you think? Great, let's do it. Let's not. Okay, what do you want for dinner? And that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So it
Well,
really it was easy.
yeah. And what struck me and what you just shared with us there was that you said you sat down and talked about it. Because of these things these days, it's becoming a much more difficult conversation. Social media, FOMO, is impacting kids because our kids are growing up on these things, on these tools. How do you think it's impacting um, the psyche of parents and kids when it comes to communication about sports because, the kids see stuff on their phones that they
Yeah,
think is reality,
correct.
right? And it ain't.
Yeah, it has a real negative impact because you going even to the youth hockey level, right? And obviously my background is all in hockey, so I can't speak for other sports or parents in other sports. But in the sport of hockey, you have parents who are controlling their child's, and I say child, I mean 10, 11, 12-year old social media accounts and posting these highlights and, oh, we are at this tournament, look how great we are here, and blah blah blah, and this and that. And it's giving kids this impression of, well, look at how well he's doing, and that just gets worse and worse as the kids are getting older, and it's really the parents driving it from behind. And maybe they're doing it to catch the eye of a coach, maybe they're doing it to try to brag a little bit, maybe they're doing it to try to show how great their kids are in their eyes. Whatever it is, it's a real negative impact because all the players see that and they say, oh, so and so's at this tournament, look at how great he's doing, and so just
Right.
went to this camp, how come I'm not at that camp? And it's kind of the FOMO side of it, right? Well, how come he's there and
Yeah.
I'm not? And then it creates this sense of jealousy, envy. Instead of just focusing on yourself, you're trying too hard to keep up with the Joneses, and so made it to that camp, how come I'm not there? When in reality, we all know, it is all smoke and mirrors.
Right.
There's
Right.
nothing wrong with being proud of your child and wanting to promote them, but I see parents running their kids' accounts, speaking for their kids, meaning trying to pretend they are their children and saying all this stuff that just, again, is smoke and mirrors, and trying to put their
Yeah.
kid in a light that maybe just isn't there. And so it's
Yeah.
having a real negative impact, in my opinion, because other players see this and they say, well, how come he's going to that? How come I'm not doing this? And it does have an effect on it, on these kids at this age. And you try to bring them to
Yeah.
reality and show them that this isn't really what's happening, or whatever the case may be. You try to show them the reality of the situation, but a lot of times they don't want to hear it because they believe what they say.
Right, right. Full disclosure out there, moms and dads. Dave coached my son and helped him get to the University of Maine as a defenseman and forward there. And Dave, I think the blessing for me was you and the other coaches running the program, especially Coach Wright. You guys both were BU guys. I knew you guys knew hockey. I didn't. So I was comfortable turning my kid over to you guys and letting you teach him the game. And that was what, Coach Wright, when I first met him, promised me he would do. And you guys did that, and I was okay with it. But a lot of parents are not. They're so busy still trying to coach from the stands. How difficult is it to deal with the helicopter parent who's trying to coach from the stands and probably giving them the wrong information?
So I don't know if this story is true or not, but there's an old myth, there's an old, I guess, legend that Coach Mariucci from the University of Minnesota once said that his ideal team would be a team of orphans. That way, and again, I don't know if he actually said that, but I heard it, and it's a great line because that of the helicopter parents is awful. It's awful, and you see these
Yeah.
parents who want the best for their kid, and they think that they know what's best for them, and the players are literally looking into the stands after every shift, after every drill and practice, and the parents are sending hand signals and doing all this stuff. And then a lot of times what they're doing is they're contradicting what the coach is telling them to do. And so it sends this idea of, well, my coach doesn't know, I have to listen to dad, I have to listen to mom, and oh my god, they're going to be mad at me, I'm only doing this so they don't get mad at me, or whatever the case may be. So the idea of the parent being in the stands, the helicopter parent, so to say, it really does have a negative effect on the player. It has a negative effect on the coaching, because 9 out of 10 times it contradicts what the coaches say. Most parents, when things go wrong, will say, oh, that coach is this, that coach is that, he doesn't know what he's talking about, you should be doing this, instead of just saying, well, maybe you should work on, maybe you should listen to him and try to do what he's telling you to do and not make excuses. We've all been there in certain situations where we get mad at coaches for whatever as parents, but to sit there and send, as the hand signals from the stands, and I've seen parents storm out of rinks because they're mad at their kid, and their kids. I saw a kid recently petrified to come out of the locker room because he was afraid of what his dad was going to
Oh,
say to him.
oh,
And it's
come on.
just it's terrible to see. It's having a negative effect on these kids versus one, just letting them play and letting their coaches do what they're supposed to do. And if there are concerns, if there are questions, then maybe the player should go up to the coach and ask him first. Or if there's a massive issue, that's when the parents get involved. And by massive issue, I mean if something's going on in the locker room, there's been bullying, there's been something like that. But to attack a coach
Right.
because of playing time, or I think that it sends a signal of, well, I'm not getting what I want, so I need to go tell the coach and tell him how I want this run. Well, if you want it run that way, then you coach.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
let especially if you've never played the game before. For example,
Right.
my son who's 12 played baseball for the first time this year. I'm not a baseball
Hmm.
coach. I
Right.
don't claim to be a baseball coach. I don't claim to know the intricacies of the game. I by no means would be sending him signals in the stands and screaming at him because he swung at a bad pitch or because whatever. It makes no
Right.
sense that when people don't have the experience of anything to be giving judgment on personal feelings, not what's really going on. And I get it. It's a big investment, hockey, time, money, the whole thing. And people want kind of to see a return on their investment, meaning their kid playing to the best of their ability or wins and losses, whatever it is. I understand that. But at the same time, if you don't have the knowledge to be giving the right advice, just let the coaches do their job.
No doubt.
If you are a former player at any respectable level or former coach, right, then you can say, hey, listen, this is what I saw, this is what I think, but the hand signals from the stands are just insane. I see it all the time, and
That is madness.
I literally saw last year in 8U cross ice team where a parent during practice opened the door and screamed at his kid on the ice during practice while they're in the middle of a drill. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Wow. Yeah. How do we help parents realistically understand, how difficult the game of hockey is? Funny story, real quick. When Malcolm was like a mini mite, he must have been 5, and his coach was like, "For you parents yelling from the stands, if you want to come out and
Yeah.
do practice with us." So I went and bought a pair of skates. I figured, how hard could
Yeah.
it be? Right? I got out there, Dave, within 8 minutes, I was cramping
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
and didn't sleep that night. And I didn't make it through the practice. And right then I realized, okay, I'm
Yeah.
out of my league. And
Yeah.
thank God for Coach Wolf. I still remember Coach Wolf, Coach
Yeah.
Bob, and his son, and they were great because I learned so much from them at 5 years old. And I learned I had no business trying to teach my kid hockey. But how do we help parents understand how, number one, how tough this game is, and number two, the sacrifice it demands from the entire family, from everybody that's involved?
Sure. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. You don't know what you don't know until you try it, right? So, I mean, I don't think parents who have never, I think parents who have never played, especially hockey before, really don't understand how difficult it is, right? There are a lot of sports that you can pick up at an older age and be successful
Yep.
in. Hockey's not one of them, right?
Mm-mm.
It's in my opinion, it's probably the hardest sport to learn because you have to learn how to skate. Then once you have to learn how to skate, you have to learn how to skate well, forward and backwards. And then you have to put a stick in your hand and learn how to control the puck. And then you have to learn how to control the puck with your head up. And then you have to learn how to control the puck with your head up while skating, while looking to see where everyone else is and make the right play and and keep track. It's incredibly difficult to learn.
No doubt.
So first and foremost, as you said, parents don't know what they don't know. And until they actually try it, they have no idea. So they're never going to learn unless they get out there. But I think
Right.
that the hardest part for most parents is understanding that the coaches do have the team and the players' best interest in mind. Yes, coaches will make opinions on players and who they think will be better or worse in certain situations and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you have a good coach, they're there to develop everybody.
Right.
And put the faith in them for that. And as long as, my experience, as long as a player is coming out to work hard, is a good person is listening, is doing what we ask them to do, is working hard, we'll work with them to get better. If they're going to be an issue, if they're going to be problems in the locker room, if they just don't care, they don't show up all the time, then I'm going to put the effort into you that you put back into us. I'm not going to sit there and sacrifice time and effort when you really don't want to be here. But for the kids who
Right.
do, so the parents have to tell their players, if you're on the team, you're on the team. You know, this is a sacrifice
No
for
doubt.
all of us. This is a sacrifice, as we said, financially, time-wise. And if you are going to be there, you give 100% effort. If at the end of the season we decide we want to go a different route, then hey, that's your prerogative. But while you're there, you're committed to the team. I mean, I know players who have other commitments and so they only show up when it's convenient for them. Yeah,
Wow.
so it's tough. It's tough with that. So
Yeah.
parents have to understand commitment on from if you're committed to the team, the coach will be committed to you.
Right.
Especially at the
Right.
youth level. You know, obviously you get into high school and you get into college, it's much different where winning and losing really matters. You know, at the end of the day, everybody wants to win. You win you win the 10U state championship, Dunkin' Donuts is still $2.50 for a coffee. Like nothing changes. It doesn't matter. The point is to develop and to get better and to enjoy it so that next year you want to come back and then you get better and you develop, and if you want to come back the next year and and so on and so forth. But at the high school level, it's different where okay, coaches need to win, they're going to put out the top guys that they want to. College, forget about it, all bets are off.
Right.
And so on and
Right.
so forth. So but at the youth level, you're committed to the team. The coaches will be committed to you, and you let the coaches do what they've been asked to do, what they've been hired to do. And at the end of the year, as I said, you make decisions on your next step for your family, and you go from there. But parents have to understand that
Yeah.
coaches are really there because they truly love the sport and they want to be a part of it and they want to give back, and they're not there to ruin a kid's chances. They're not there to bench a kid and to be to make this a miserable experience. And if your coach at
Right.
a youth level puts so much effort into wins and losses, that's not the right coach. Because as I said, it really doesn't matter. I look back now on my son's, who's 12, is at 10. Oh, look, someone just came to say hi. Sorry about that. The wins and losses do not matter. I once said
Right.
to a parent in recent years, we were talking about we were getting into state championships and the team, and we have to win states. And I looked at them, I said, well, you know what happened last year at the state finals, right? You remember that? And they knew, no, what happened? I went, I don't know, nothing. No one cares. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. There could have, it doesn't mean anything. The reason you don't
Right.
know is because it doesn't matter. So let them go have fun. If they win, great. If they don't, great. Whatever. We'll move on. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the best advice for parents, really, that I would say is let the coaches do their job. If you do have major concerns, questions, it's okay to politely ask them. Don't wait for them after games, with a, fuming look in your eyes, and don't send them not mean, but angry text messages or phone calls right away. The whole 24-hour rule that a lot of coaches implement is there for a reason. They want cooler heads to prevail. Take a deep breath. When you're calm, we'll talk about whatever's bothering you. But, understand the coaches really are there for what's best for everyone.
Yeah. Hey, help me understand this new rule, which is actually making it even more difficult for parents and kids now to get to college hockey. We've got an influx of Canadian junior players coming to U.S. colleges. We already knew it was extremely difficult to play college hockey as an American-born skater. What's it like now? Because we're seeing some expansion, but not enough where American-born skaters have the opportunities. And it's going to be more difficult than ever for kids now to get a college hockey
It's going to be more difficult now than ever. And, if I had an exact answer for all that, I'd be a very rich person. But, it's still new. And what we're seeing right now is with the Canadian Hockey League, major junior players being allowed to play NCAA hockey now, A lot of teams are just recruiting from major junior now. So then the junior leagues in the U.S., other than the USHL, which is the top league, the North American Hockey League and the leagues under that are getting any looks whatsoever. So for those players who
Wow.
might, you go to major junior, let's say at 18, you go play 2-3 years up there and then you transfer or leave and go to an NCAA school. What's to say that someone who's 20 wasn't working their butt off for the last couple of years is, the late bloomers and deserves a shot like that. But
Mhm.
because he didn't go to major junior, now he's not getting looked at. That doesn't, my opinion is going to hurt players who are the late bloomers. It's going to be great for the 16-year-old superstars who, it
Right.
really will be. And I spoke with a college coach last week who said Division One is only recruiting now out of major junior, USHL, and the British Columbia Hockey League, and that's it. He said that Division
Wow.
Three is recruiting out of the North American League, maybe the NCDC League, and then the leagues after that. No one's recruiting after. So that's one coach's opinion on it, but it really does show that if you are not at 18 now playing in one of these top leagues, it's going to be really hard for you to, if impossible, to get to that.
Yeah.
His other line that he said about it, though, he said it does make the top teams, it makes the pool deeper, meaning now we can recruit anybody. So the top leagues do potentially can get those first overall draft picks and the second and third and the first rounders and all that stuff. But it's going to make the average player chances of playing NCAA, not even Division One,
Yeah.
NCAA, really difficult. However, it's
Yeah.
brand new. It may, we don't know what's going to happen in 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now. It could completely
Right.
change again. So, but in today, the kids who are coming out of juniors today, if you're coming out of high school, other than Minnesota, and you want to go straight to college, there's zero chance of going NCAA.
Oh, wow.
And the other part is the NCAA allows 21-year-old freshmen. So if you're 18 years old and you say, I don't want to play juniors, sorry, you're not playing college hockey. That's just the landscape.
Right.
I don't agree with it, to be honest with you. I think college sports should be for college-age kids. But that's their rules, not mine, and we just have to abide by it. And so I think I'm not a fan, to be honest with you, with the major junior aspect of it. That's my opinion.
Mhm.
Again, it's not my choice or my rules, so we move on and we adjust and see how this all shakes out.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you offer a great service in these summertime showcases where you take hockey players overseas and you guys get in some great tournaments. My son Malcolm has been a coach with you guys and told me it's an absolute blast and you guys have the time of your lives over there, plus play some pretty good hockey. Let folks know how they can get involved in that and where they can find you.
Yeah, sure. So to touch what you said, we do a lot of European hockey tournaments and tours. We actually kind of specialize in that now, where we're going to Europe 4 or 5 times a year. We go to France, Italy, Czech Republic, Sweden, Finland. We have a trip going to England this year, Germany. So we have a lot of different options out there. The reason that we do these tournaments is simply because this is a journey, the youth sports path. At one point, it's going to be over for everyone. These European trips are some of the best experiences you could possibly have during this journey. Yeah. And one day your kid's going to wake up and be 40 years old and look back and say, you know what, I never got a chance to go play in Sweden and Finland. I wish I could have. Or they could have said, we did that once. That was the best trip I ever went on.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, well, they want to develop and play in summer showcases. You can play in all the summer showcases in the U.S. every year until you're a U20 player. No one will ever say to you, the best trip I ever had was going to Foxborough and staying at a La Quinta for a weekend. No one will ever say that to you. But they will say the best trip I had is that trip we went to Italy. And for example, this April, we're going to Italy. Our tournament has 10 teams coming from 8 different countries: Hungary, Kazakhstan, Germany, Italy, France, Switzerland. The Netherlands national U15 team is playing in it. This is an unbelievable tournament. It's not just a local tournament that we show up to and say, hey, let's have fun. These are high-level play tournaments that include exceptional world-class sights, sounds, hotels, experience, as you said, 1 million laughs.
Food.
And they're the trips that you will talk about when you're 40 years old. So the
Yeah.
name of our team is called the MCN Senators. The name of my organization is MCN Sports Management. And as we touched on earlier, we do advising, we do the trips. Our website is mcnsm.com. So MCN Sports Management, mcnsm.com. It has all the information on there. This year we have a U13 team going to France that Malcolm came with us last year on. We go to Paris in a city called Tours, and we have a U15 team going to Italy in April. These are all in April. We have a U17 team going to Prague. We have a 2014 birth year team going to the UK in June. And then in
Nice.
August, from August 1st through the 10th, we have 13 through U20 going to Sweden and Finland, boys and girls.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you, those trips that we did overseas were absolutely amazing with Malcolm. But I got to tell you, Dave, and I know it's not for everyone, but you touched on your prep school experience. I want to kind of go back to that because it was the best thing we ever did for Malcolm. I wish I had done it for my other son, but I didn't know about it. You know, still being friends with you and Coach Matt all these years later. Um, it was the best thing we ever did for our son and for our family. Talk to me a little bit about why parents today might find that, as a great opportunity to set their kid up for success, down the road.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an amazing
So I have the
experience.
experience of boarding school from both a student side and from a faculty side, having gone to Northfield Mount Herman as a student and then working at New Hampton up in New Hampshire for 3 years as a faculty member and a coach. I tell everyone the same thing. Academically speaking, going to boarding school was the best decision I ever made. And the reason
Yes.
for that was many different facets of it. Is that it was academic growth, it was independence, it was just getting out of my hockey bubble. Growing up in Boston, Italian Catholic, went to Catholic school my whole life from elementary school through high school. Then I get to Northfield Mount Herman and I'm with students from around the world, different races, different religions, different, cultural backgrounds, whatever it is. And you realize that, I didn't even know I was in a bubble till I realized I wasn't in a bubble. I used to joke around in Boston saying everyone's name either ended in a vowel or began with an O, right? You're either Irish Catholic or Italian Catholic, and that's pretty much it. And you get to the boarding school world and you realize, wow, I didn't realize how sheltered I was until I got here. Now I'm friends with, making friends with people from around the globe and people who speak in different languages and again, different religions and races and, all that stuff. And so the other side of it too is the independent side of it, meaning mom and dad aren't
Yes.
there to wake you up in the
You.
morning. Mom and dad aren't there to make sure you brush your teeth and change your clothes and, go eat breakfast. And, you wake up late, you're late for school. That's on you. You can't say, oh, there was traffic. There is no
Right.
traffic. You live next door. You can't, you don't do your homework at night. That's on you. You don't show up to your, classes or your extracurricular or your school meetings or whatever it is. That's all on you. So it teaches students at a young age to be independent and how to time manage and how to understand that, okay, I can't just sit around and be on my phone all day or whatever it is. There's stuff
Right.
I have to do or else there's repercussions if I don't show up. And so by the time you get to college, that stuff's already taken care of. So the transition from boarding school to college is much easier than students who maybe come from public school and lived in mom and dad's house the whole time. A lot of students, and I saw this as a college student, my freshman year at Boston University, we had players on our team who who went to day schools. They played really high level sports, but they, still living at home. And when we got to school at first, it was like, letting the cat run loose for the first time. It was just craziness. And you look at them going, calm down, and the other freshmen too, who, kind of go off the handle at first because they're not used to living on their own. And so the
No doubt.
boarding school world really teaches you that independence. And then as a faculty side of it, I saw the development of the students who would come in who would come in at the beginning of the year and their growth as a person, and how they would be this maybe shy or kind of, off the wall student at first. And then by the end of the year, by the end of their time there, they became just these great humans that, there were people who we had
Yeah.
babysit our kids while we were at New Hampton, that when we first met them, we were like, this person's out of control, you know? And then by the end of it, they're like, oh my God, they're just amazing. And, you know, you see that growth and development, and maybe they realize it's happening to them, maybe they don't. But from, you know, from the 200-foot view, you can see them. And, you know, those are the ones who go on to have successful careers, both academically and professionally after school, because of those skills that they learned at a boarding school. And then athletically speaking,
Absolutely.
you know, athletically speaking, the private school world is still really high level athletics. It's not what it was 15, 20, 25 years ago, but it's still really, really strong. And I'm just speaking from the hockey side. I can't speak for, I know prep school basketball is phenomenal and lacrosse, but from the hockey side, it's not as strong as it once was, but it's still really strong. You know, it really pushes kids to play at a higher level, to, you know, again, and then you're doing it on your own, right? You're not going home and complaining to mom and dad and getting in the car ride and dad telling you how great you were and your coach is an idiot. It's, you know what, I had a bad practice today. My coach let me have it. I got to be better tomorrow. This is on me. You know, and it pushes you to be your best, or at least try to reach your best potential. So I personally have said for years that the boarding school world, in my opinion, is the best growth place for a young person to grow and just to becoming an independent, mature person. Take away sports, take away all that stuff. There's nothing out there that has that growth in that short amount of time to get you ready for the future. So I'm a huge advocate of boarding school, private schools, the whole nine.
No doubt. We're going to have to come back and do a whole episode on it because, it truly is a huge growth tool. And I hadn't looked at it, but now I think about our experience and man, the growth was astronomical for our son.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, because I know you're part of it. And we love and appreciate
I appreciate it too. I mean, Malcolm obviously is a great. I just talked to him the other day, actually. Yeah.
Oh, did
so,
you?
I mean, so that's the other side too with the boarding school world, is that you become so, you know, you're obviously living there, you're going to class together in the dorms, this and that. You become so close with not only your friends there, but you do become close with faculty members and your coaches, and that, you know, Malcolm, was 13 years ago last time I coached him. You know, and now he's been to Europe with me twice, you know, as a coach and as a friend, and you know, texted him the other day. It's you know, got to know his wife and his daughter and everything, and you know, it's great. To this day, I still get texts from other students all the time, just saying, "Hey, just want to say hi. How are you?" You know, where, you know, my kids who are all going to local schools here, you know, if you see your teacher in the supermarket, you know, you bury your head and you say, "I can't believe so and so's here." You know, but the boarding school world, you know, I've had students run and jump in my arms and give me hugs at the end of summer break and be like, "I missed you so much this summer." Like, thanks. You know, so it's and that's a true story.
I believe it.
I feel is the real takeaway of the boarding school world, is that you see the faculty, you see your teachers, you see your coaches as more than just that. You see them as people. You babysit their kids, you have dinner at their homes, you walk their dogs, you know, you're having lunch with them at the dining hall. It really does. And again, getting back to the whole growth thing, is that seeing people who are older than you, seeing them as people, not just, oh, that's my teacher, I have to hide and, you know, I don't want to see them. So
Right. Yeah, that is a whole different world. And it's great.
I loved it from both sides of it. I really did. I truly enjoyed my boarding school experience.
Yeah. So did we as parents. All right, my friend. Well, that's going to wrap this edition. Thank you so much. Again, we'll let folks know on the screen where they can find you, and because you're on all the social media handles and your email and your website. So we appreciate you, Dave. We love and respect and miss your family a lot. So give your lovely wife my best, and we will talk again soon. We'll have to do this again soon and dig into the science of hockey.
Whenever you're ready, I'm ready.
All right, my friend. Have a great day.
All right.
All righty. Sounds good. Peace.